Hi everybody. Now today I'm going to talk about the thing um, that I have the most fun worrying about while I'm out on the trail, and that's water, water purification, and getting enough water, getting hydrated with enough water. Now, water purification gear is one of the items that has like the most numerous choices. Cooking is another thing where there's a lot of different choices, but like when you think about it, even though there's choices of what kind of down and that sort of stuff that might go into a sleeping bag or what kind of filling might go in, a sleeping bag's still a bag you crawl into and go to sleep. It's fundamentally, it's very simple. Backpack, same thing. It's a pack you put on your back and you carry things around in. When it comes to water, especially purification, there are actually a lot of choices, and we're going to go over those. So first, it's one of the biggest concerns that I have when I'm out on a trail, and there's a little bit of history here. One of the main reasons is that Craig and I went hiking in the Grand Canyon in 2011, so 10 years ago now, and we ran out of water twice during that trip. Once in the South Kaibab National Forest on the South Rim, and the other time in the Grand Canyon itself. We resolved the matters both times. But it was interesting in those days when you got a permit to hike in the backcountry in the Grand Canyon, they would send you a DVD explaining to you all the ways you could probably die in the Grand Canyon if you weren't careful. And of course, water dehydration from lack of water was one of them. So when we were in the Kaibab National Forest, this pothole here actually turned out to be our water source. That first time we ran out of water, this is the water that I finally found. Okay, so when my father first brought me hiking in 1969, we were in the Greylock Reservation, and I don't remember where we got our water, but I know we didn't purify it. There was no such thing in those days. So in the 1960s, you were out hiking, you took your water straight. You took it right out of the streams and ponds or wherever you found it. I do remember on that trip, though, drinking water out of a pond and having another hiker saying, hey, that might not be the best thing. And that was the first time I ever got the, impression, I was only like 12, that water in the wild wasn't necessarily safe to drink. Now, by the 1970s, by 1979, we had advanced, or I had advanced to the point where I'd still take it straight, but I'd feel uneasy about it. Now, a little older, a little wiser, the world changed a little bit. We just treat everything. There's just too many pathogens. There's too many stories of beaver fever and everything else in the water supply. So we treat everything, and we have different methods. We can boil our water. We can chemically treat it, usually with some kind of chlorine based chemical. We can treat it with ultraviolet light, and we can filter it. So let's take these one at a time. First of all, I'll get into the equipment that you need for boiling when I talk about cooking gear, but just briefly, it requires your normal, if you're going to boil water, it requires your normal cooking gear. Conceptually, it's very simple. It's just boil the water. It has some disadvantages. It uses up fuel. It uses up time because there's the time to boil the water, and then if you wanted it for drinking, there's a time for it to cool down, which can be considerable. If you're going to use it for cooking, not so much of a problem. If you're going to use it for cooking, you could depend on the boiling for the cooking being the purification method. I mean, I typically, since I use filters, I don't bother ever doing this, but it's something that you could do. Let's look at chemical treatments. It's usually some form of chlorine, like I said. I forget the name of this. It's chlorine dioxide is the most common type of purification, and that can come either as a mixture of water droplets like you would get in this Aquamira kit here. I do own one of these, and I actually haven't used it yet. So I think the next time I go hiking, I'm going to make it a point to actually use that as a backup. You can also get it in tablet form, either Aquamira or Katadyn. I have brought those tablets with me, and the one time I went to use them because I just wanted a little bit of extra purification in the water that I was filtering, the tablets had disintegrated in the little foil packet, and I'm not sure if that's really the packaging or the age of it or the way I had handled it. So I'm gonna have to find a better way to handle those. But I actually have both of these. I have some water purification tablets, which are really just the same chemically as this Aqua Mira. With Aqua Mira, you mix the two together and then you put it in the water. Another choice is Ultraviolet Light. I have a SteriPen Adventurer, I guess is the name of it. It is a device for purifying water. It kills. It is good for killing pathogens, viruses, and that sort of thing. It requires batteries. The whole time I had it with me, I was really worried about it breaking, either electronically, something going wrong with the ultraviolet light, or just plain physically breaking. I mean, it has a glass tube built into it. It doesn't improve the taste of the water, and it doesn't take out sediments. If you're going to use it, it may be best to pre-filter your water through a cloth of some kind. I mean, I typically do that if I'm taking water out of a spring that's got a lot of things floating in it, and that will take care of that. I have used it, but I have a psychological problem with it, and that is, it's the one mechanism where I really don't get a good feedback, a good feel that it's actually done something for me. If I boil water to purify it, I can see the water boiling. If I use the chemical treatment, at least I can see the little tablet dissolve. I know I threw it in there. I can, even if I do the eyedropper mix of the A and the B parts of the Aqua Mira, I at least can see that I put it in. And I'll get the filters in a moment, but at least with a filter, I've seen the water go through the filter. With the SteriPen, yeah, you put it in, you see the ultraviolet light, but there's just something about it that psychologically it doesn't do it for me. And I'm sure it's just a shortcoming of my own mental processes. It just seems like black light magic to me. I did use it on a 70-mile trip in Maine, between Stratton and Monson, Maine, and I came back alive, so I guess it worked. So the one mechanism that I use most is filtering, and I do have two filters. One is a Katadyn hand pump. You can see the little picture here. I don't have that exact model, or the color is different, but the little part on the top that swings out, and that is actually your pump handle, and what you do is you just pump, and it sucks the water in through the little bulb that you see in the lower corner, and there will be a tube coming out the top, and you can take it from there. A single one of these filter cartridges lasts about 750 liters. You can filter 750 liters of water through it, which is maybe a year or two actually of long hikes. The mechanism that I use now is the Platypus gravity feed system, and I have a picture of it here. It has a 4-liter dirty reservoir, and it has a clean reservoir, and the idea is you fill the dirty reservoir with the unfiltered water, as clean as you can get it, they suggest, but unfiltered, and you let gravity do its work. You have to put the clean bag down physically lower than the dirty bag, and the water just drips through the filter. Now, I actually don't bother with the clean bag. To me, it just seems to be redundant, because I filter directly into my platypus bladder, which I'll talk about in a moment. It's convenient at camp because you don't have to spend your time pumping the water. You just hang this up on a hook somewhere, either on a shelter or on a tree branch or something, and just let it filter into your whatever receptacle that you're using the water for. And like I said, I don't bring the clean bag with me because it just seems to be a little bit of a unnecessary extra. If you have a lot of people with you and you're all depending on this, yeah, I can see that. One of the things you do have to do is protect the filter from dropping or freezing. And the way I protect it from freezing is if I have any inkling that the temperature is going to drop too low overnight. I don't go out in freezing weather too much, but when you're in the backwoods of Maine, even in August or early September, there's a possibility things are going to get really cold out there. I just put it in a Ziploc bag, waterproof bag, and just put it at the bottom of my sleeping bag, and that'll keep it from freezing. If it freezes, it's not a matter of thawing it out, it's a matter of throwing it out. It's just, you've ruined the filter if it ever freezes. And they are expensive filters. Now, they will do 1,500 liters of water, so that's many years. Got to care for them. After every trip, I make sure that I run a tiny bit of chlorine bleach through it, make sure that it's clean. Okay, so that's filters in the four main ways of purifying water. Now, like I said, I use the gravity feed filter now, and it's a little inconvenient if I'm actually filling up on the fly. In other words, while I'm out hiking on the trail, if I come to a camp, it's actually very nice. And as a matter of fact, if I know that the campsite has no water, which happened to me a couple times in Virginia, in one case there was just no water source associated with the campsite. The other cases, I had been warned by other hikers and by signs that possibly the water source had dried up. And I could carry in a gallon of water in the dirty reservoir in my mesh pocket and filter it when I got there. Okay, so when it comes to hydration, I use a 3-liter Platypus bladder. Like, this is not the exact model I have, but it's close enough. And I put it in the backpack with a hose out the back of the backpack. I don't know, the part of the backpack that's closest to my back. I don't know if that's the front or the back. I always get confused about that. And it runs that hose out there, and then I can sip on it. And when I talk about trail routine and hydration, or if you've watched my on the trail video, what I call the CHRM, the Craig Ellsworth rehydration method, and I'll put a link to that. If you've seen that, then you'll know how I use this, and the fact that when you do sip from this, it's not like gulping water. I always carry a reserve, like a 1-liter Gatorade bottle with me. So that way, because I can't see what's in the bladder, my first inkling that I've run out of water was I find myself sucking on air, and it sounds like, when you're a kid, you're drinking a straw through a straw, and you get to the bottom of the glass of whatever you're drinking. And in that case, I know I have 1 liter's worth of hiking, 1 liter of water's worth of hiking, in order to find that time to find another water supply. And quite often I'm pretty close to the campsite anyway. But this is why I keep the filter in the mesh pocket. I don't want to have to open up my backpack and go rooting around to pull the filter out, to pull this bag out. This bag actually is in the interior of my pack, but outside that that internal waterproof liner that I have in there, because I don't care if this gets wet. And as a matter of fact, I don't want it to leak or anything and get onto anything, so I keep it outside that liner. Run the hose through a small opening in the back of the pack. I didn't have to put it there. It's a feature of the pack. And then that's how I drink during the day. Okay, now there's a couple other items associated with water. One is called the kitchen sink, believe it or not. Yes, you can pack everything, including the kitchen sink, in your pack. I found this most useful when I'm hiking with a group. It's just a 10-liter sack. It weighs 4 ounces. I have a Sea to Summit one, like shown here. Mine happens to be blue. This one, the picture I got was yellow. But it's just a convenient way to carry water around. You just have to, make sure you have your rules of how you're going to use it. If you're going to put unfiltered water in it, okay, so be it. Just know that you're going to filter water out of it. And that's what I actually usually do, because sometimes it's easier to fill that bag and then from there filter the water, especially when I was using a hand pump as opposed to the Gravity Works one. I did not bring this with me on my long section hike, and there were times where I wish I had it with me, because it would just been more convenient to be able to use this to deal with the water. So for the extra weight, it's actually pretty good. The other item is something that Darlene picked up for me called a pocket shower. And again, it's a Sea to Summit product. You'll notice I have a lot of Sea to Summit and a lot of Z-Packs products. This is the idea of this is that you fill this black bag with water and you leave it out in the sun, and solar radiation, just heats up the water, and you've actually got a nice 7-liter water shower wash up sort of thing. It's not like being at your home shower, but it's better than nothing. The shortcoming is it's really useless on the Appalachian Trail because you're usually hiking during the day and you're not out in the sun, and because you're under tree cover. Even when you are above tree line here and there, it's not enough that you could actually heat anything up in it. Plus, you're moving, you're hiking, and by the time you get to the shelter, usually they're sort of in deep woods. I did come across one on my most recent trip where, there was a little bit of sunlight that could have peeked in, but it's so late in the day, you really can't do that. Where this will be useful is if I ever have the opportunity to go hiking in the Grand Canyon again, or out west where you're out in the sun all day, which by the way has its own issues to deal with, which I guess I'll cover in a different video. But that's where this pocket shower would be really good, because in the Grand Canyon you're only hiking from like 4 a.m. to 10, and then in the hot part of the day from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. you got to kind of crawl under a rock or whatever you can find to stay out of the sun, including if you have to bring your own portable fly or something that you could provide shade for. That would be a good time to put this out in the sun and heat up some water, and just have the nice opportunity to clean up with the warmer water. So that's all I have about water. I'm sorry this is a longer video, but there are just so many choices, and water is so important out there. I figured this would be a good time to discuss it all.